Are you dreading having to attend yet another offsite? Or even worse, have you been tasked to help organize one? Liz Moyer, Doctor of Strategic Leadership. And as an Air Force leader, I've served at the Pentagon, deployed around the world, and worked with both the joint and soft community. I know what it feels like to be overwhelmed, and I hate an offsite that causes more confusion than clarity. I'm going to go over some preliminary questions everyone should ask when it comes to an offsite. Then I'll jump into three different types of offsites and finally show you some great resources that you can implement. So make sure you stay till the end. I do have a checklist and a downloadable form for you to look through that will help you as you plan and execute your offsite. I think about this as that pre-flight and take a picture of this or pause it if you want to. But very important, we want to ask, what is the one outcome we must absolutely achieve? That's not two, it's not three. And in the past, I've not done this well. The constraint question, which is what matters most, and really, really honing in on that. And finally, the success question. How do we know this is successful? Think about it when we're working on a project or when we are doing some type of event, we want to know what metrics are important. And we don't want to get caught up in the metrics, but if we can't really describe the reason why we're spending time, money, resources to get together and we can't say what we want at the end of it, why are you meeting in the first place? Now, I mentioned that there's three different types of offsets. And for those of you that say, okay, well, I want to do it all, sure, go ahead. Your people will just end up being overwhelmed and really tired. I've been there. I've sat in a 12-hour long strategy offsite, and literally at hour eight, we're fighting over parking spots. And we've gotten so far left, it's not even funny. So, whether you're planning this or you are the leader, you want to kind of think through what is the primary lens. Yes, you can choose an offsite that is focused on strategy and have a little bit of development and connection, but you can't do it all. One great way to do this and to have an understanding of what the individuals in your organization are looking for is that you can use a polling system like Mentimeter. I do have a video that goes over Mentimeter and you can check that out. Once you have those insights, and maybe it's just based on the inputs from other individuals, or maybe you have a really good idea, that's when you can start to hone in and go, all right, well, if this is a strategy, then this is what I want to focus on. These are my success metrics. And here are some examples that you're looking for on the other end. Often, one of the things that we see is that when we want to take people out of the work environment, we want to give them an opportunity to develop or connect because in the day to day, they're not doing that. And that's where offsites that focus on development, maybe a critical skill where you go, oh my gosh, if we could just get a little bit better at conflict management, maybe we would see some improvement or connection going, oh, this organization, they feel disconnected, they don't trust each other. Those are great reasons for you to take a large chunk of your time to really laser. I wouldn't be in the military if I didn't have an acronym. So there is the ACE method that can help you with some of the common traps that occur when you're planning an offsite, but also executing it. Trap number one is when you have misaligned goals. And there could be someone in there that's really well intentioned, but just thinks that there's something that's more important to talk about. A way to mitigate this is to designate someone who really understands the point of the offsite and he's going to take a step back. And when a very good comment comes in, but it doesn't align with the why are we here problem, that person says, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Let me write it up on the parking lot. We're going to get back to that. You have to be able to cage in or cat herd. Another huge failure is the overloaded agenda. And I have probably done this almost every time I've tried to run an offsite myself because there's so much I want to do. But curation is so important and allowing for buffer, allowing for margin for just the catering was late or someone has a really great discussion or an amazing breakthrough. And you don't want to just stop right away and say, okay, stop connecting. We've got to move forward. Now, the final trap also can be very dangerous because we can spend 8 hours, we can spend 3 days and have fantastic ideas, but not have a clear way to execute that. And it goes without saying that that really leads to confusion. Find the person in your group who is absolutely detail oriented, loves to take notes, and you can get some clarity on making sure that you know who is doing what and when. Yes, you can make adjustments, but that's really vital that that execution piece is laid out, especially when we're talking about strategy. All right, so let's say you have an offsite and you have really wanted to focus in on strategy, but you want to have an element of connection and you want to have an element of development. These are a handful of tools. Once again, not inclusive. I will have other videos that you can check, but things that will get you going. The first one is going to be Arthur Aron's 36 questions, and that is actually in my video that's focused on trust. But another one that's kind of cool to do is the life map. I've seen this done a lot of different ways. You can have someone draw, you can have them have sticky notes or even a piece of paper. But what you do is you give them about 10 to 15 minutes. And the core elements of this life map is you start to ask them, okay, hey, who are influential people? And, where have you lived? And what have been some milestones? Tell us about your professional journey, your personal one, some significant events, and some values and beliefs. Yeah, it's a lot of information, some freedom with it, but individually let each person really brainstorm and think about those. Once you give an individual's time to write down or draw or however they want to express sort of their life map, then you have that in small groups and you can do a pairing depending on if you've got, you know, a small group, everyone can share individually. For larger groups, you want to break them up and you set a timer and you have someone just share the highs or something that stood out to them that they want to share. There's always that level of comfort that we want to be very mindful of. But after the individual reflection and the sharing, what you want to do is do this collective timeline. And the team has an ability to be a little bit creative with this. And I've seen it where they do a timeline, and that's always sort of fun too, because you see the different generations. And someone's like, "I was born here," and someone's like, "Oh, I graduated," and you laugh about it. But it also helps you realize, okay, the individuals that I work with, we have some significant differences. But oh, you went to that concert, I did too. And that leads into this last part of the exercise where you're doing some pattern recognition and you're having people pull that out. Where it's interesting, you can become so tribal and sit there and go, okay, yeah, this is, you know, my clan and this is my crew. And we're really trying to force that connection where people go, wait a minute, there are similarities and how can we further connect? Okay. So moving on to strategy tools. So I'm going to jump over to an offsite I did in the past. And I definitely crammed too much information in this. So to be fair, one of the things was that as we did the strategy, there were a couple of questions I wanted them to think about. It was what do we do around here, making sure we had really good clarity on that. What do people like us for? What do we want to be better at? And what's your plan to get there? So I really wanted to focus on this. And what we did was we ended up putting, you can see at the top, these initiatives. And so one of the initiatives for this flight, FSD was just a flight, was deliberate development. Another one was facilities of the future. And then um, the third one was Space Force ain't got nothing on us. And it was a little bit like based on innovation. And then it was this breakout of, so in the next 6 months to 1 year, what would it look like to accomplish this deliberate development? And then in the next 1 to 3 years, what would it look like? And then 3 to 5. And it was really trying to get us to think a little bit further out because we just so often are so siloed and going, how can I get it through today, through this week? And we're not stepping back and going, these are some of the initiatives. Our facilities are falling apart. This flight, they had a dining facility, a fitness center, these lodging facilities. And all of that really tied into If we don't start now with plans for construction, for renovation, for funding, then we'll never get there. We'll look up, it'll be 6 months, it'll be a year, and we're no closer to that. Really, the key point that I want to go over is that a strategy tool, we've seen different ones. There are SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Always a kind of great place to start. You have to go and start with the end in mind from there and go, if I'm looking for some end states like a expanded fitness center, and that will most likely happen in 3 years, then how do we work backwards? And this is still kind of at the macro level, but the concept was all of these leaders needed to do some pre-homework, talk with their individuals, think through what they thought was most important. And then the next step was, okay, let me break this into smaller pieces and go, here are my plan of actions and milestones. That's a military term. It's also used in the civilian side. You'll hear like POAM, and it's like, what are the key milestones for specifically one area of going, I want to someone's job description, what would the steps be? And then you can provide updates to that. So I wanted to have a big picture understanding. And then from there would be follow ups of some of the small elements. There are a ton more strategy tools. And I go over a lot of these in the course that talks about how to command the chaos and help when overwhelmed. As always, if you find this information helpful, please subscribe and share with someone else. And finally, just one example of many when it comes to a development. And finally, just one of many development tools. This is where often you'll find yourself spending a little bit of money. Maybe you want to bring someone in to train on a very specific type of curriculum. Brene Brown does something, Simon Sinek. You've got individuals like they go over things like crucial conversations. And it's got workbooks, facilitators, and sometimes at the end of it, you might get some type of certification. But I wanted to give you a free version that you could do. And I like this because it actually taps into a little bit of connection, but this is still developed. And what this is the GROW model. It's a coaching model and something I started learning when I was going through my doctorate process and understanding how to become a coach. And it was okay, if you are a leader, one of the common traps is that you immediately want to give an answer and you feel like you need to. And this doesn't matter whether you are operating in the office or you're parenting or you're part of a nonprofit. It's just sort of, okay, someone presents this problem and you start to jump in. But what the GROW model does is it helps you to slow down and ask a couple of questions. You can see we talk about the goal that the individual has, what is the reality, what options do they have, and what is the will. And if you are the individual that's just asking the questions of that person, you shouldn't be talking a whole lot. There's two ways to do the GROW model where you have a coach and a coachee, or if you want to do a coachee, and an observer, that's even better because the observer is going to see how well did you as the individual who's the coach ask questions and actively listen, and also look at, did the coachee really dig deep? Were they thinking through potential options and really taking in that interest and ownership of their problem? This is an excellent handout from Dr. JW. I love all of his resources. I'm always talking to him, and he compiles some great stuff from other individuals. So, as a really quick, specific example, let's say you're coaching me and we're going through this process. I may say, you know what? One of the goals is for me to develop a YouTube episode that talks about the importance of offsites. And you would go back and go, all right, well, tell me more, give me some more specificity. Tell me why is this important to you or what's the outcome and you know what would be a benefit if you achieved this goal? And I can answer that and go, well, people would feel, more empowered to have an offsite and maybe people would actually enjoy going to an offsite instead of dread it. And then we would go into reality. And you as a coach would say, okay, well, Liz, what's happening right now? I need to um I'm in the process of recording it, but there's just so many resources and I'm a little bit overwhelmed because I could spend a whole section on this. And I'd give you a little bit more information about the reality of where we are with developing this episode. And then you as a coach would go into options and say, okay, so if I hear you correctly, you want to do this YouTube episode on offsites. You have a draft of it, but you feel like you have too much content. So, what options have you not considered? What have I not considered? I haven't considered, I guess, taking one example each and then allowing people to reach out if they're looking for specific ones. Yeah, I guess I could do that maybe. Hmm. And once again, you as a coach would go, well, all right, if you were advising another YouTube creator about this, what would you say? And I'd step back and go, well, probably good as Amy and perfect. I want the viewer to have a better understanding of offsite. So here we go. And then finally, the way forward. And so you could ask me, well, what are you going to do? And I'll say, I'm going to publish it. And lo and behold, you get your video. I mentioned a offsite planning toolkit, and I will have that link down below for you to download. This is just a quick overview, but it gives you a pre-assessment, and based on the assessment, you can determine whether you need a connection offsite, development, or strategy. It gives you a couple of things to consider when you're thinking about a budget, some additional resources and references. And these are very simple websites, but sometimes you just need a little bit of inspiration to go, oh, I don't like the human dot exercise. What can we do that's a little bit better for connection? And then I also have the offsite agenda, just an example of a way that you can try to minimize just cramming in too much information. No one wants to have a bad offsite, whether you're planning it, whether you're part of it. So I really would encourage you to embrace the process, try some of these tools, and if you find it helpful, please subscribe it and share with others.